Have you ever gone down the rabbit hole of your family tree? Well, in Korea, that journey can take you back centuries, all thanks to these incredible family records called daedongbo. But here's the big question. When did these amazing documents actually start? That's exactly what we're going to dig into.
So just for a second, think about your own family. How far back can you go? A few generations, maybe a century, if you're really lucky, right? But imagine being able to trace your lineage back 1,000 years, or even more. It's this wild, personal journey right to the heart of who you are.
To really get our heads around the story of the daedongbo, we're going to zoom in on one family in particular, the Wonju-byeon clan. Their history is basically the perfect case study for how these records were made and why they were so important. And believe me, their story is going to help us answer our big question.
Okay, so take a look at this timeline. The Wonju-byeon clan's origin story is, and I'm not exaggerating, epic. It supposedly starts way back in ancient China, during the spring and autumn period. We're talking over 2,500 years ago. Fast forward a few centuries, and their ancestor, Byeon Anyol, moves to Korea during the Yurin dynasty, and that's where he officially founded the clan. By the time the Joseon dynasty kicked off, his descendants were already branching out. It's just an incredible story that crosses continents and centuries.
So you have this amazing family history that goes back thousands of years. But here's the million-dollar question. Is the book that tells this story, the daedongbo itself, just as ancient? The answer is probably not what you're thinking.
Yeah, it turns out the daedongbo, as we think of it today, this organized printed book, is actually a much newer invention. It's really a product of the 1500s, and its creation was a total game changer, not just for keeping records, but for Korean society as a whole.
This chart really shows you the before and after. Before the 16th century, family history was messy. It was passed down through stories, carved on giant tombstones, or pieced together from random letters and documents. There was no single unified record. But then, after the 1500s, boom, you get the daedongbo. These slick, printed books became a huge status symbol. And here's the key takeaway. It means all those super ancient origin stories were often reconstructed much, much later from those scattered, less reliable sources. So let's put a pin in it. The big moment, the real turning point, is right around the year 1500. This is when the first of these comprehensive printed genealogies really start popping up. And for that family we're following, the Wonju-byeon clan, their very first daedongbo was put together right around this time by a descendant named Sun Byeon.
Okay, but that raises a huge question, right? Why then? What was so special about the 16th century? What happened in Korea that suddenly made having one of these books not just cool, but absolutely essential? Well, to get that, we have to talk about a massive shift in thinking that was shaking up the whole country.
So during the Joseon dynasty, this philosophy called Neo-Confucianism became the official rule book for everything. And it had a huge impact on family. It put this massive emphasis on tracing your family through your father's side. And it made honoring your ancestors a super important state-approved duty. For the elite class, the Yangban, a printed genealogy was the ultimate proof of their status. It wasn't just about showing off. It was their ticket to holding government jobs, making powerful marriage alliances, and keeping their family's influence going for generations. It was a tool for social legitimacy.
So we've established that the daedongbo was a super powerful tool for cementing your social status. But what does it actually mean for what's inside these books? I mean, if the whole point is to prove how great your family is, what kind of stories are you going to tell?
Now, this next point is absolutely crucial. You have to understand this. A daedongbo is not a government census. It's not an official state document. It's a private family record, written by the family, for the family. And that one simple fact changes everything.
Let me give you a perfect example from the Byeon family's daedongbo. During a really brutal war in the 1590s, Sun Byeon, the same guy who put together their first genealogy, was asked to protect his wife's entire family. He hid them, he risked his life to move them by sea to keep them safe. And the daedongbo itself says his actions were special beyond ordinary in-law relationships. This just goes to show you these books were never just a list of names and dates. They were a record of a family's core values, like loyalty and duty.
And since these were private records, families basically got to be their own PR managers. They focused on the highlight reel. Passing the incredibly tough civil service exam? Oh yeah, that's in there. A heroic story of loyalty to the king? You bet. But what about the less honorable stuff? An ancestor who was a criminal, a nasty family feud, a kid who brought shame on everyone? Yeah, you're probably not going to find that in the daedongbo. It's the family's greatest hits album, not the messy B-sides.
All right, let's bring this all home. We've learned that the printed jokbo is a pretty recent invention from the 16th century. We know it was born out of some powerful social and political needs, and that it's a very carefully curated version of a family story. So what does that all tell us about what a jokbo really is?
So, back to our original question. When did Korean genealogies begin? The real answer comes in two parts. First, the idea of caring about your ancestors, that awareness of your lineage, that's been around in Korea for a very long time, way back to medieval times. But second, the jokbo that we can hold in our hands, the organized, printed book, that's a specific invention of the 15th and 16th centuries. It is 100% a creation of the Joseon dynasty.
When you get right down to it, a jokbo is so much more than a family tree. It's a cultural artifact. It's this beautiful, complicated record of how a family decided to remember itself, mixing hard facts with ideals, pride, and yeah, some very selective memory. It's a self-portrait of how a family wanted to be remembered. And that brings us right back to us, doesn't it? Every family has its own stories, its own legends, its own heroes, and maybe a few things we don't talk about so much. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. What's the story that your family chooses to tell?